This episode is a special one. We got Chris Lytle. We're going to talk all things BKFC again, but we're actually talking to one of the guys that works there, fought for him, and he's going to explain like the rule sets, maybe different things like that to us. Personal note, my last UFC fight I was fighting against one of Chris Lytle's guys. So we're going to talk about that, talk about him coaching against the coach. And the casual probably didn't watch it because it wasn't a UFC main event pay-per-view. Let's go.
Yeah, to get into it, first of all, I probably didn't watch it just because it was a Ramsey fight. You know, there was cartoons on. Wow. One of the first things I wanted to talk about is that you fought all the way from heavyweight down to welterweight, didn't you?
Yes and no. By that, I would say no, I never weighed that. But when I first started fighting, there was no weight classes.
Okay.
So, like when I would fight in Japan, yeah, it was open weight class.
Pancrase you fought over there,
correct, yeah.
You know, so we had Jake Shields on. He talked a lot about fighting in Japan. What was your experience fighting in Japan?
I loved it. I love fighting in Japan. It was so early back into my career, and things were just different back then. You just go over to Japan, and it was all about the fighting spirit, the attitude. You go over there and you fought your ass off. That's all people cared about. You win, lose, or draw, because there was no weight class. It was like those guys over there had terrible records because they fought each other. They fought tough guys all the time. It's just about going over there and fighting. So I love the attitude over there. And it was weird. Educated fans, they'd be very quiet. You could just hear the fighters breathing and stuff. You watch, and like you could hear your coaches totally because nobody's cheering until all of a sudden somebody starts to get an arm bar and they go, cut that. Everybody starts clapping when they get out, and it's like then it's be quiet again. So like they understood what was going on. It was good. I loved it.
That's exactly what Jake says. That there would be applause breaks when somebody would do something technical. They just.
Yep. Yeah, and they'd get excited, and then it'd be quiet again. You can totally hear your coaches the entire time.
So there wouldn't be one casual fan there like him. This dude is so loud at every sporting event, rooting for anybody, not even just like one size, because he's a gambleaholic. So he just has bets on every which way. Literally, literally, like we're at the Jazz game. Some of the players are flipping us off, and we're like, we'll root for the Jazz, you know? And then one of the promoters on the local one was like, I'm going to kick your ass if you keep rooting against non-local.
I'm rooting for that one player, not the whole team. He has to have 12 rebounds.
That's
literally it. I get it.
What they don't realize is that my kid's Christmas is based on an 8-leg parlay. So I gotta make this thing.
I mean, they don't get much, but next year. You were bad this year.
Is it such a big difference fighting with people who are super technical and then fighting in front of American crowds who just want violence?
Well, that's where I talk about the bare knuckle comes into play, because I'm saying what bare knuckle's been able to do, in my opinion, has taken all the other parts out and gotten rid of the boring parts. Because how many people do you know I say, are you an MMA fan or a UFC fan? What's the difference? Well, do you watch local MMA? Do you watch Bellator? Do you watch PFL? No. Well, then you're a UFC fan. Yeah, and half the time it goes to the ground, you're like, stand them up, because the guy's got too good on the ground.
Stand them up.
We've taken all the great stuff. You know, we've added the clinch. You can fight. I think we're the most exciting part about. I mean, I think we're more exciting than boxing and a lot of MMA.
Can you clinch like over/under clinches or like what?
But as long as you're, I mean, you can't just hold them. If you clinch and you can punch and land it, you're allowed to do it. But if you're just holding. Punches. You can't just hold them. But
They'll
if you
break
pull
you
the
out.
Head down and hit him, move them to the side. You can do anything in the clinch. You can do as long as you're hurting them.
Do you feel like dirty boxers?
Oh, they do
thrive.
Great.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, like
Mike Perry.
Like we've had high level boxers, world champs, and they haven't fared well because I always say this: you get a tough, hard nosed MMA guy who's got that wrestling mentality, that wrestling background. And they usually beat the brakes off these guys because they use that dirty boxing. They'll put their head in there and they'll move. The boxers like you're like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
They think this is boxing with no gloves, and it's not.
Like, what's his name? The boxer that came over and broke both of his hands. Wasn't he the shit talking?
Oh, Paulie?
Yeah, Paulie. Yeah, Paulie. That's it.
He didn't break his hands. He might have said he did.
Oh, really? He said he broke both his hands.
Of course he did, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had very few breaks. People don't realize that. Like, people, when they get done, their hands are swollen. They're like, I broke my hand. No, your hand. I mean, it goes
swollen,
down. It's
yeah.
swollen. Yeah, you hit the guy in the side of the head like you're supposed to hit him in the face.
Yeah.
So
Don't hit the skull.
Don't hit the skull. I remember after my last fight, my hand was swollen real bad. I was like, oh, and it went back down. So
What would you say like the difference between? I mean, you fought 25 UFC fights, 3 bare knuckle, and bare knuckle seems to have lasted more imprinted in you than anything else. I don't know.
Bare knuckle just reminds me of UFC back in the year like 2001, 2002. It's still raw. It's new.
It's Wild Wild West.
It's not that, but it's a fight because a lot of boxing and a lot of MMA and UFC, to me, that's turned into an athletic contest. Who's a more strategic guy who can take down, who can land more jabs.
Like a kickboxing wrestling match is what it's become.
This is a fight still, and that's what drew me to it. When I first heard of bare knuckle, I said, "What the hell's wrong with those guys?" I remember somebody said, "Hey, you're friends with Joe Riggs? He's doing a bare knuckle fight." I said, "What the hell's right? Why would he do this?" I said, "Does any money? What's going on?" I remember I watched it, and I was like, halfway through the fight, I was like, "Who do I talk to do this?" I was like, my mind changed. I was like, it brought me back 20 years. I went back in a time machine, I felt like, to when I started fighting in 1998. That's what it reminded me of. And I was like, that's what I fell in love with. And that's why I had to do a fight. I did one over in England. I thought I was done, and they came here, and BKFC was born. And they said, "Hey, man, we want you to fight." And I was like, "Hell yeah, I'm in."
Oh yeah.
Isn't it tough though? Like, I mean, you guys are both done extensive MMA, which means you've just trained your body so extensively to expect the takedown, to expect grappling, to be on the ground. So, is it weird for you to be in a thing? Does your body? I mean, when you're getting hit in the face, your body doesn't ever go, "Oh shoot."
Well, personally, I had 15 pro boxing matches.
Yeah.
Early in my career, so I was used to that.
I remember seeing Chad do that one time in one of his when Chad fought. His first fight was
Fames.
Yeah, he got hit, and then he saw him go for a double leg, and he's like, "Oh crap, never mind." And then he came out.
We've had that happen.
It's
It's muscle memory.
Yeah.
I remember one guy, he got hit and he got cracked, and all of a sudden he tried to do like a spinning back kick. But he didn't no ill intent. He was just on autopilot.
On auto,
You know what I mean? So. That happens, but like I said, I'd already had so many years of boxing, I was able to transition pretty well.
Did you do MMA and then all that by necessity because you knew you could go be great there and you weren't going to be great boxing? What then drove you to MMA? Because it sounds like boxing was a first love.
No, I was an MMA guy, and then I started boxing to get better at MMA, my hands, and then I started doing boxing just for fun, and then I started falling in love with it. To be honest with you, it was weird because I don't know if you guys even remember, they had a TV show, Sylvester Stallone and Sugar Ray Leonard did called The Contender.
Yeah, I do remember that. You were on that.
No.
Oh.
So they had the first
show.
season, and I was like, I watched it. I loved it. And my boxing coach got me a tryout, like, right to the front of the line because I was a UFC fighter and everything. And I went over there, and they loved me. They're like, "Man, we want you to be part of this. Season 2, we're either going to do 168-pound weight class or 147. So I was like, well,
too small.
I'm not making 47. So I fight at 170. I'll do 168. And they're like, "Oh, we'll get back with you." And they go, well, they did 147. So I wasn't on that.
There was an MMA fighter on it, though, right?
I don't know.
I think the first season.
I don't know. But if they had been 168, I might have signed with them, and I would have never kept going in the UFC. I'd already fought in the UFC a couple of times, but it was before The Ultimate Fighter, and The Ultimate Fighter 4 came out, and I was on that. So then they had to sign a contract that said I wouldn't do any boxing. That's why I'm a boxing
and it's
career.
kind of wild. Like early UFC fights, you would just do one fight, go to another organization, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like
They
these
didn't
were.
sign people to contracts because, like, they had. I remember they had a couple people under contract, and then like BJ Penn fought Matt Hughes, won the title and left, and they're like, "We got to start signing these guys to contracts." And they started signing everybody, but like before a while, they only put on a few fights a year. They put on like 5 fights a year. You couldn't keep people active enough, so you had to fight outside of the UFC. Fighters wanted to fight. You know what I mean? You couldn't make enough money to not do it.
But aren't you torn? I mean,
Well, here's the thing. He's starting to learn about real fighters, and so he's always like,
and frankly, I'm unimpressed.
he's like, yeah, right. He's like, I wouldn't do it for millions of dollars, and then he doesn't get that we would just do it for fun.
Oh, I fought for peanuts. You know,
to avoid a charge.
I get paid too. I remember the first time I fought a big fight, I got paid like $300, and I was like, oh sweet, I'm gonna pay a bill, and I'm gonna take my girlfriend out to eat, and it's gonna be great, you know. So
I got in trouble. I got kicked off the wrestling team for fighting.
No way.
Yeah, well, I was kicked off several times and then let on back again several times. guess if you're pretty good at wrestling, they just keep,
Yeah.
But
if you're good enough, they'll make
one
it
of the times I got kicked off for fighting, and then someone came to our wrestling room and they're like, hey, we heard there's a kid in here that wants to fight. And then I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And then I signed up for a fight, and I was supposed to do it for free. But I grew up doing MMA. Like, I was like you. I started wrestling to get better at MMA.
Oh,
'Cause I was
really?
training MMA, and then some kid took me down, and one of my neighbor friends, and I was like, what the fuck was that? And he's like, it's called wrestling. And I was like, I better learn that. And
No
then,
way, man.
so
'Cause you were a good wrestler.
yeah, but I started young, though. Like, we were training when I was like 6, 7 years old. And then about 7th grade, I was like, all right, I'm going to go really hard in wrestling. And then I found out I can actually get scholarships in college. And I was like, all right, this is it,
That's so weird to me because, like, UFC didn't start till 1993, and I graduated in 1993. So I was a wrestler for no reason, not for no reason, but I wrestled. And then I was like, it translated, made me good, but at the groundwork. But I mean, it's funny to me hearing someone like you think that you wrestled to get better at MMA. That's
MMA,
crazy.
yeah. Well, I lived in like Everett, Washington, is where I grew up, and that was where Team Quest originally was from.
Oh, man.
Because Randy Couture is from there, so
Yeah.
like a lot of people were. MMA was big in Washington.
Okay.
Chris was Chael, wasn't it?
Yeah,
He was there, but he was.
yeah, he wasn't.
Randy was the leader. I mean, Chael was he was
Yeah.
one of the people there, but he wasn't the leader.
They also had that guy that went out.
See, he
into
only
the-
knows casual.
They also, how about this? A deep lore. They had that guy who went out into the desert and died, right?
Evan Tanner.
Evan Tanner, RIP. Yeah, he was but he was kind of a later Team Quest, right?
Those early, because he went there after he'd already fought for the championship. But those early UFC days was dudes who would just they wouldn't do training, they'd get drunk, and they were just tough ass dudes.
No, and see,
right?
that's where a lot of the misconception is, right? Because like the early UFC,
Don Fry.
yeah, but
He was a hell of a wrestler.
he's a hell of a wrestler, but the Gracies were very particular about who they would let into the UFC. So Gracie Jiu-Jitsu would keep on winning. You would have fights like outside of the UFC that would beat all those guys. Like what's his name? Brock Lesnar's coach. Eric Poulsen fought another big name.
Oh yeah, Paulson was a man, and he didn't even really fight that many times.
Yeah, and we'll just get back to it. Like Eric Poulsen, I forget who fought another big name that you watch this fight. Both of them would have been UFC champs. Like, and that's the thing. You see these UFC fights, same era. These guys are like, I only do karate. And then you would go to Japan, you see real MMA fights going down.
It's amazing to me. I mean, how it could have been so different. I mean, in my opinion, looking back, Ken Shamrock should have won that thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have totally changed the dynamics of everything. But I think talking to him about this, he fought in Japan like less than a week before that. He thought this wasn't real. He didn't understand what's going on. He thought, who's this nerd in pajamas? He thought he was going to whip. He thought Hoist was nothing.
Yeah.
And he got sloppy. But I mean, he was skilled.
And then he came and beat him the following.
Yeah, but I mean, it didn't. I mean,
it's too late. It was already done. Yeah.
So,
The
I mean,
UFC 1 was already.
could have been totally different.
And then you know what though, that kind of pisses me off though, just because it like gave the credit to jiu-jitsu as a self-defense.
But look what it did. The world. I mean, look at America now. I mean, like the whole world
knows what it
jiu-jitsu.
is. Yeah.
I mean, their commercial was the greatest thing they've ever done. That worked.
Yeah.
But from Jump Street, was Dana, I mean, you've known Dana for a long time, right?
Dana
Was Dana, I mean, he wasn't what he is now, obviously. Now he's the greatest to ever do it. But was he, in the early days, was he as smart pulling strings behind? I mean, he's got that little crop dusting of hair when he was on that first.
He wasn't around first time I fought in the UFC.
Yeah.
He wasn't even involved. I mean,
Bro,
it was,
OG, bro. He has no idea.
I mean, it was he didn't get around to about UFC 31, I think. So
And when he comes in, is he that smart? Is he that good from Jump Street, or did he have to?
Dude, here's the thing. I mean, he's done great stuff. Don't get me wrong, but it is. Do you have any idea how much easier it is when you have billionaire friends that can help you? I mean, it's amazing what a guy with ingenuity, a good idea, and billionaire friends can do. Like, if I had billionaire friends, I could do a lot. But I mean,
i.e. this podcast, my first one without my friend Kyle was terrible. It was hard to watch, and now we got this whole thing.
All the money. No, but I'm just saying he had good backing. So I mean, they spent a lot of money and they made some mistakes. They were learning on the fly. I think. I mean, did they have good ideas? Absolutely. But I mean, I don't know if other people could have done that or not. If they had that back, and you have to think so. I don't know. It's tough. I mean, I'm sure he's done great things. I can't.
Well, the thing is, to fight in the early UFC, there you had to have such a passion for it, because what were you getting? 200? I mean, what was the payout?
I didn't want to tell you my first payout.
Duh.
Tell us, dude. Can you drop it?
$500.
My first fight was 300.
My first UFC fight.
It was 500.
Now, luckily,
Mine was free on the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, well, yeah, I did fight that too. But then,
Room and board on that, though.
pretty much.
Indentured servant, yeah.
No, dude, there's nothing you can put on that for the exposure you got, though. And
Yeah.
the sponsorship. I mean,
No,
it's a
and
good
when I
deal.
came off is when we had the sponsorships.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so I was making money right off the Ultimate Fighter.
That's what I mean. So it was, you didn't really get paid, but you did in a way.
Yeah.
So when you
and
came in,
honestly, I
though-
didn't give a shit about the money. I was 21.
You
I
were
was
that young?
Yeah, I was there for the experience, dude. I was like,
Beautiful, man.
yeah, I'm 35 right now. And then so like I was just there to like
I'm
have
older
fun.
than that.
How old are you?
Don't worry about it. No,
All right.
no, I'm 49, man.
Oh hell yeah, you look good, bro.
Good. When you came in, though, was it purely love of the game, or did you think it was going to lead to something?
Oh no, man. I mean, when I first started doing this, it wasn't anything. I remember the first time I fought in the UFC, I said, I'm going back to Japan, man. Japan's way more organized. It was better. I mean, the UFC back then, when it wasn't owned by Zuffa as SEG, it was nothing. It was falling apart. I was like, this is not going to make it. And I did not think it was going to make it. I really didn't. I was like, so I was doing, I love going to Japan. I liked how they treated you. I liked it. It was fun. It was just something for fun for me. I just liked doing it. And I was training like 3 days.
Imagine that and being like, oh, this is fun.
Well, I usually won a lot then, so it wasn't like I'm getting beat up all the time.
But
I was doing
tell
the beating.
like one of my favorite fights. I was fighting Brian Foster. Had a war. I was winning the fight, and then he caught me and then dropped me. But I was still like, that shit was fun.
Yeah.
I had a great time. I was eating pizza in Chicago. My face was swollen. Drinking beer with your family, and like, that's the best feeling in the world, man.
And it's cool when you're in a fight and you tune out everything and you're just that fight. You're like, man, I don't care if there's 2,000 people, 2 million people, or 2 people watching. This is fun. You just kind of lose yourself in the fight. That's fun time.
Yeah, and that's like what when you're just in the zone.
Yeah, exactly.
Is BKFC fun ever? Like, I always see that, and those fights are so much more brutal.
It
Like,
doesn't look fun.
like
It really
MMA,
doesn't
like I
look
could
fun.
wrestle someone. You know what I mean?
No, it is fun, but it's so fast paced. Like you got to be. It's constant coming at you. You never really get a chance. It doesn't seem like it'd be much. 5 2-minute rounds, you got out of break, man. You're exhausted. That thing.
It's just
you're
this.
gassed. Yeah, you're like bam, bam, and you got to be blocking. You got to be moving. You got to be. And that tying up is terribly tiring because they're trying to hit you. There's no glove. It's crazy, man. So it is fun, but especially you win, it's great.
Well, you went 3-0, 2 knockouts, 1 decision.
Yeah.
Did it feel like light work, or do you feel like it could have gone south on you if you had made a wrong move here or there?
Well, I remember my first one, I didn't know what to expect. And at one point, I'm in there, I get poked in the eye, and the fight get going, but I couldn't see for about 40 seconds. I'm just trying to avoid and trying to grab this guy. But I remember thinking, this dude's about to knock me out. I can't see punches coming, and I was like, this is not good. So I remember I was trying to use all my evasive maneuvering, but that was scary as hell. Like the referee, I was from America. They weren't stopping that for eye poke. I maybe didn't see it, but I was just like, I couldn't see out of my right eye. Just like, trying to move. It was terrifying, but I got through it.
So in your next 2 fights, especially once you get through the first one, because what I've asked a lot of fighters is I've never made the ring walk, and I never will.
No, you got to fight.
We
got to fight.
Set him up.
Yeah, no, he's got another Foxcatcher kind of character
that I'm gonna fight.
Yeah, that we're trying to do Foxcatcher versus Foxcatcher.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I got to imagine what I keep asking, and so I should probably stop asking because but does the first time you get hit in the face, is it almost a relief? Like, oh cool.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
it's not that
cool,
bad.
but like when you first, a lot of times when you get here, you're like, wasn't that bad?
Yeah.
Okay, now it's game on. Now you can relax a little bit and start fighting. But it's that anticipation of the
The
punch.
fear of the unknown. Yeah.
But once you usually get hit once, and it's like, okay, now it's go time.
When's
can feel someone's power.
When was there,
Yeah, and like,
when was there a time that a guy hit you and you were like, oh shit, I hate that?
I remember I was doing a boxing match, and I was brought in as a B side. I'm this white dude from Indiana coming in and fight a guy from like a prospect from Philadelphia, and like we bumped heads early, and I'm bleeding, and then next thing I know, I go to throw a punch, and I hear 3, 4, 5. I was, oh shit, I'm on the ground. So I stood up, and my legs were like jello. I was like, oh shit. I'm like, I don't remember getting hit, And so I'm like, I used my evasive maneuver, and I tied him up a bunch. I started hitting him in the body, and like I wore him out, like knocked him out in the 7th round. So that was my favorite. But I mean, yeah, I knew I was in big trouble there. I was like, if he hits me again hard, I'm in trouble.
I mean, we talk about the Luke Rockhold Mike Perry fight, right?
Yeah.
And for me, like I'm watching it. Bare Knuckle is rough to watch. I mean, it's just, but if I'm getting hit in the mouth and my teeth get knocked out, I'm like, cool, I'm done. But it's so effed because then everybody's going to be like, oh, huge pussy. But what normal person, aside from you guys who love the shit, what normal person get hit in the mouth and be like, yeah, I want to keep fighting?
We've had many people get their teeth knocked out. That's the thing. We've had several. And the key word you said there is normal. These people ain't normal because here's the weird thing I've learned. Like, how many people think fighting MMA or boxing is normal? What, 1 out of 100?
Yeah.
And the people who do MMA and boxing, 99% of them think this is crazy. So it's like we're the 1% of the 1% who want to do this stuff. And I always ask that people when they're at the trials, I'm like, what is wrong with you people? You guys are like me. You're not very smart. So let's keep going, because something's wrong with you. I mean, I hate to say it. This sounds sexist, but I'm like, I see guys do it. I'm like, what is wrong with females doing it? It's like, you're pretty. What is wrong? Don't do this. But
someone's going for you. Especially like a Paige Van Zandt.
I know.
I'm like, Paige, don't. I'll pay you to stay out.
I'll join your OnlyFans, whatever you need.
What's the name of the guy who owns it again?
Dave Philbin.
He said something on a podcast that we were filming for somebody else. He said something that I actually really liked. He said that bare knuckle boxing is one of the most relatable things in the world because everybody's been in a fist fight or seen one or been punched in the face or punched them in the face. Most people have not done a double leg takedown or tried to do an arm bar, but most people in the world have seen a punch thrown. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. It is fighting at its core. It's what humans do, It's
raw, it's real, and it's, like I said, it's relatable. And to me, it's highly entertaining. I mean, like I said, it takes the fun parts of fighting and puts them right there, and that's all we have is the good parts. Anything that people think might be boring, we said get rid of it. We don't want it, and that's why I love what Dave Feldman's done. He's made this sport highly entertaining to me, and I think once more people see it, they'll be like, man, like I said, all those casual UFC fans, MMA fans, whatever you want to call them, as soon as they watch it, they'll be like, yeah, I like this. This is more entertaining to me. I mean, hell, we've had fights where we had 11 fights, every one of them ended by knockout. Or we've had 10 fights, 9 of them be by knockout. Like, we have 11 fights, I bet the 3 of them might go to the judges. That's it.
Yeah.
And I think like a big thing is like the glove list. Everyone's like, oh, they don't have gloves, but you're going to cut more, obviously, but then there's less concussion hits, I feel like.
100%.
And because like even myself, like when I fought Andrew Holbrook, kid you coach, first punch, I come off the bat and I just feel so confident in your glove and just go, boom, broke my hand. I'm like, damn it, dude. And I fight the whole fight, the broken hand. And that's happened to me more times in gloves. And then I was looking at the statistics actually of the bare knuckle breaks, and it's less than the UFC.
100%. I mean, because like you said, if I give you $1,000, if you can hit that wall really hard with your bare hand, all right, and you do it, and then I go, okay, here's a glove put on. Which are you going to hit it harder with? You're going to throw way harder with that glove on. Bam, you can hit hard. So people don't hit quite as hard with bare knuckle. You give a false sense of security with that glove. So you're
like
100%
football.
Right.
Like football's way worse than rugby. But then what's the difference is they have all these pads on, so they just run and kill each other.
It's like the thing you hear, like your brain stops you, but you could actually bite through your finger like it was a carrot if your brain wouldn't stop you. If you're bare knuckle, your brain stops you from throwing it as hard as you would.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
and you have to be more precise, right?
That's the beauty. You look at those old school guys and they're fighting like this. Like you can't just throw hooks. They were fighting like 48 rounds. Or you have to be smart and try and target this area, because if you're throwing wild hooks, you're going to hurt your hands. And you figure that out your first fight and you go, I'm not doing that again. You know what I mean? So, yeah, but it's just like you said, I always bring that example up of rugby. I'm like, how do you get rid of these concussions in the NFL? Go back to leather helmets.
Yeah, take away all the pads.
I don't care if you're running 20 miles an hour and you suddenly stop, your brain's going to hit the skull. Same thing with getting hit in the head. If you get hit with, even if they're wearing gloves and that brain hits the skull 20 times per round and you do a 10-round fight, that's a lot of hits to the skull is in the brain. Every one of my favorite boxers has brain damage. And name a good boxer. Yeah. They're all messed up.
And they've proven that because of amateur boxing, headgear and gloves actually cause the more concussions. Yep. So if you had these kids actually bare knuckle boxing, they would be safer than like they'd be more bloody.
You get more superficial.
Problems.
Like you're gonna get cut. I'm like, dude, we're ugly anyway. You're not gonna. Yeah. I'd rather have my brain intact than my face totally intact, personally.
And like I think the other thing too, you do punch different, like more of a karate style. You can't just be like, I'm gonna rip your head off. Like you got to be really precise with your punches.
Now, what I always tell people, where you can dig is to the body. Go as hard as you want to the body. And that's what people, the next level guys, are getting really good at body shots, because you hit somebody good to the body, you're not gonna hurt your hand.
What's
It's just like a fight though. Like I can get hit in the head, it doesn't hurt, but you get hit in the body. That oh gosh.
Yeah.
What's the combo you're throwing though? Because you're talking about going straight down the pipe, right?
Yeah.
But for me, I just from learning from Ramsey, you're not trying to get on the chin.
Oh yeah, 100%. When you throw hooks, that's what you're trying to. You got to be.
What's your combo you're throwing when you're fighting bare knuckle? What are you trying to get at him?
Well, I like to go in with my double jab and then go hook to the body and then try to throw the uppercut and fall back with my left.
Yeah.
So you go 1, 1,
Bam,
4,
bam,
6, 9. Oh yeah,
That's my favorite.
But like what he's trying to explain to you, Kyle, is he's still going for the jaw, but you can't just go for the jaw because you're gonna hit the head and break your hand.
Yeah.
So you really have to set up your hooks. That's why he's saying
get their head in the right spot.
Yeah, put them straight down the pipe, get that chin exposed, then you knock them out.
And it's got to be more of a tighter hook, or tight. That way you're not hitting here. You're trying to hit here. You know.
What are you watching guys in
punch.
their first bare knuckle fights? What's the most common mistake you're seeing guys make?
They just go wild.
Yeah.
Guys, it's so funny when I'm talking to these guys in the interviews, because I interview everybody. I'm going to start doing that tomorrow here first. But everybody says saying, I'm willing to trade one to give. I'm just going to go out there and throw my overhand right. I'm like, all right, cool. And every time they hurt their hands and they go nuts and they're throwing these wild. It looks like two cats just going at each other, and then next time they go, I'm gonna be more measured this time. Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You better than me, because if you said the same thing, you didn't learn anything.
Well, it's funny because the same thing when I coach someone in their first fight.
Yeah.
I'm like, be calm. The first thing they do is they go wild and they come out like, that's the hardest thing I've ever done. I'm like,
After 3 minutes and they have nothing left, like,
Yeah.
shit, we trained for.
they're like looking
6
over
weeks.
at you. You're
I
like,
can't help you.
I can't help you.
Breathe.
Breathe.
Give me 2 breaths. That's my 2 breaths.
Well, I think a fun little history we could get into was coaching against me. You know, now that I'm the coach, I'm an official coach, and I'm the coach on the casual. One of my last UFC fights was against Andrew Holbrook.
Yeah.
Black belt under you, right?
Yeah.
And I think at the time I was purple or brown. And then me and him.
You've always been brown your whole life. But
I was born brown.
Yeah, belt. Okay.
And then you've always been purple. But then, me and him fought in Chicago.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, and it was Chicago, and I forget which card, but it was a good fight. And I just remember, because I can remember walking out, and I was like, oh shit, it's Chris Lytle. Because I was a fan of UFC 4, and I'm like, last thought I was like, oh man, this kid's gonna be good. And then I heard your voice the whole fight. Yeah, I could hear it.
Shut up, Chris. Shut up.
Your voice is so unique. I remember just hearing like Chris Lytle's voice. And my coach Tarek was like,
whoop his ass.
yeah, Tarek's like, pay attention to me. I was like, I keep hearing him, dude. Because I was like, I think we were in your corner a lot too.
Yeah. No, but I mean, the weird thing is Andrew's actually a good wrestler, but you were taking him down at will. You know what I mean? You had just a lot of dominant positions on him. It's interesting, how everything played out. But
still this day, one of the worst decisions in the history of MMA, actually.
It was a split decision. I remember that. I think, but I remember I thought maybe it reminded me of one of my fights in Japan where like I felt like I was on top, I was dominating, but this guy kept doing these he'd try and get these little submissions.
Yeah.
And they counted those for points.
Yeah.
Man, MMA scoring. I learned after a couple fights, I'm like, I gotta knock people out and submit them. I don't trust the judges at all. But
I'm not gonna say anything, but if you go look at the 2 judges that scored me, what are their nationality and mine, and what I walked out with, you're going to see it. I swear. Go look it up. I'm not going to say any words, but Google that.
Okay.
It's on. I'm checking it.
With one thing I did want to cover when we went back to it, though, especially for history, I talked about the Luke thing, but what is it? All jokes aside, because there's also the promoter side. When we talked to Dave, obviously he's not happy with Luke because Luke talked a bunch of shit beforehand and then he quit. Yeah. But genuinely, as fighters, when you see Luke in there, what's your genuine opinion of him being done at that point?
What do you mean? Quitting?
If you're his coach, are you furious that he doesn't fight on, or do you understand his stop? What do you think?
Man, that's as a coach, you know your fighter. You know what I mean? You know, that's what we talk about this sport, and we talk about Mike Perry. This is a sport for dogs. This is you have to have that where you can take a punch. I always tell people you got to be a good hammer and a good nail in this one. Like you can't. You're not going to get the guys who are real pretty the whole time and just move and don't get hit. You're going to get hit, and if you're not the kind of guy who can get cut and be bleeding everywhere and say, I still want to go, this ain't the sport for you.
Yeah.
So that's what I say when I mean a dog. I'm not trying to insult anybody. I'm not saying anything, but you have to have that kind of you have to be the person like us who would fight for nothing. You know, who fight just because you like it. And if you're doing this just for money, it's going to be problems. So you got to be the kind of guy who's stupid enough to do this for fun.
You know,
am I right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not judging or saying anything, but you got to be pretty dumb to fight.
100%.
Period. Like to get in a cage, it's pretty stupid.
You guys are both coaches, and the problem. So the thing is, when I talk to a couple of these fighters, like I talked to Mike, super nice guy, and said, "Now I don't even want to watch him fight because I'm like, oh, it's like watching my friend." You know, even if he wins, you don't want to see him get punched in the face, right? You guys have kids that you coach. When you see your kid in there taking a beating and then going and asking for, is it hard on you or is it a proud moment? How is it being a coach to somebody who's in a war?
Well, to me, that depends on the person. You know what I mean? And I am proud of a guy who can deal with the war and still maintain and come out the other side and do what they're supposed to do and dig deep. If you can do that, man, I'm proud of you no matter what, win, lose, or draw. But like, if you're the guy who gets in that position and folds, I'm like, okay, we got to rethink everything. And I don't know if this guy should be fighting because if you don't have that, what are we doing here, man?
You don't want, and you hurt for your guy.
Yeah, I mean, because I just know the future's not going to be great for him. He's going to. Man, Ramsey, how many people in this sport and have a bad taste in their mouth? And I hate seeing that. I want people to end on their terms and be happy with how their career went. You know what I mean? And
I'm one of them. I got a little bad taste in my mouth.
Most people do. I got lucky and went out on a win. You know what I mean? Which is such a rarity. I decided I was going to go out, then I did, and I decided before I handed my resignation, I fought and I won. So if I lost, I guarantee my mentality is different. You know what I mean? So I got lucky. I don't see that a lot. So I don't want to see a guy put him in a position where I know he's not going to succeed.
Hey, you'd even talked about almost throwing the towel for Kevin. Because you love
I was looking for it.
Yeah, you love this kid.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
the
kid wasn't quitting, and he got dropped, and his arm was broken.
Oh.
Yeah, and so he was winning the fight, dropped the dude, and it was for a title, and the kid's tough, and then he comes back, and then he gets a kick, and his arm gets busted. But I didn't know it was broken, but I could just tell it was like a problem. Then he got dropped, and then they were kind of letting it swarm on him, and they weren't stopping it, and he's an amateur kid who's actually in between college and medical school because he's going to be a doctor. So I was grabbing the towel. I was like, no, we're done. Like, you know, and I'm like, he's tough. Kevin doesn't quit. And that's like, to me, that's what you want to see. But as that coach in that situation.
I just got to imagine as a coach, I mean, you guys have watched these guys from nothing to something, and they put their whole faith and trust in you. It's got to hurt. And, you know, it's like watching a kid, your kid in there, isn't it?
Yeah, but like I said, to me, like, and this is going to be a way exaggerated, but like to me, like as a fighter, I said, my job is to go out there and die in the ring, and my coach's job is to never let that happen. And we both got to do our job. I got to keep fighting until he's like, and if my coach ever says, hey, it's time to be done, it's time to be done. And that's me, them coach knowing me, and like I said, me knowing my guy. If I know that guy has no chance of winning, what are we doing here? I'm not going to let my guy get hurt for no reason.
Yeah, and I have another kid, Jordan Gonzalez, who's defending his title for the third time, local kid, 135, amateur. In one of his early fights, his shoulder dislocates. And I know the kid. I know he's tough as fuck. And I was like, well, we're just amateur. We can call it. He's like, no. And I was like, okay. He went in there and knocked the dude out. One hand. You see him like this because it was his left hand. So he only has a right hand. Boom. Just keeps throwing an overhand right. He would eat a bunch of shots and boom. Ends up knocking the dude out. So if that guy's in a war, like I would never throw in the towel for Jordan. Mm-hmm. But Jordan's goal is to be a world champ at
I'm sure, Chris, you have people all the time hitting you up saying, hey, listen, I'll do whatever it takes to be champ. Well, let me come train under you. But you guys are different. It's like Mike Tyson, one time his son said, I want to be a boxer. He said, are you crazy? You're going to get in the ring with somebody like me, how I grew up, and you grew up the son of a mega millionaire. Is it tough for you guys to see a kid come in who's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, but you know he didn't have to go through what you guys have gone? I mean, you guys had to go through all this shit and enjoy the fighting. It's, you know.
To me, it's just different. You see pretty quick if a guy can have something like that in him. And even then, sometimes, like, some guys are so dominant in the room, and then you see a fight and like, what just happened? Like there's guys who are better in the room, some guys who are better in the ring, in the fight, and until you see all this stuff, you don't really know exactly, but you can just tell some people like, man, this is not gonna work for you. You know what I mean? And it's a hard conversation to have. You know what I mean?
And it's a hard for kids that grew up pretty comfortable. This world is not for you, you know?
No.
Yeah,
it's hard.
Ramsey did like 2 shin kicks on me. I was like, dude, don't ever do that. It was horrible. I was limping around for weeks.
I kicked him in the shin. Well, he spit his nails on my mat.
We can't have that.
Yeah. And then I punched him in the face, and he was mad about it. But I was like, he literally was spitting his nails on my mat.
That's
He told
disrespectful, man.
me my nails were too long. And it wasn't intentionally on the mat. He pushed me onto the mat. And he apologized.
Look, Lytle's pissed. That kind of pissed you off, right?
Yeah. So okay, here's what's going on.
That's good.
I do now. Here's what I do. Every fight now, I put my gloves on the. They bring the gloves here, so I got gloves. We'll work out Friday.
Oh yeah, let's do it, dude. He needs it.
Well, the thing is, after talking, I prefer to go bare knuckle.
Hey, I'm the easiest guy to spar with. I work so light with people. I just have fun. I love the ground, but I try to practice bare knuckle style where I try not to get hit anymore. I can't be taking shots.
Me too. When I spar, I'm not gonna. But I only spar like my wussy clients, like this guy, you know. So I'm like not worried. The young killers, they're like, "You want a round?" I'm like, nah. I'll roll with you.
Yes. I try to roll a lot more, but you know, but I do try and still teach people more bare knuckle style. But it's all about, you know, not getting hit. I keep telling people you have to have a great defense here. That's all you got to work on. Like you can be the best offensive fighter in the world, but if you get hit and cut open, it's over.
It's over.
So we have to work on defense, and that's what bare knuckle is really about: having great defense and, you know, targeting good placement and accuracy.
Well, can we highlight the card before?
100%.
I wanted to ask one question before we get to the card. Just moving away from it, you spent 25 fights in the UFC. You did tons in Pancreas. You were an MMA fighter, right?
Yeah.
But it's almost like you know, you can't serve two masters. If you had to say why is your passion so strong on this now? And when you see like this Jake Paul stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Who do you root for, the boxer, or are you rooting for the? Because for me, I've always loved the UFC, so I wanted Ben Askren to win. I wanted Tyron to win. I didn't
want Ben to win.
Oh, but you want the UFC guy?
Oh, I knew he wasn't going.
I didn't want Tyrone Woodley to win either.
Because you grow up watching these guys be heroes.
Me and him have gotten into beef before, so I was like,
Well,
but who?
I know
who
what
does
you
your
mean.
heart belong to?
You know, it's a weird thing. Like as far as these older fighters, like they're just getting paydays right now. I mean, the Paul brothers are extremely smart about always fighting a guy who's past his prime and fighting a guy who they're way bigger than. Like, but people they're hating on him a lot. But I'm like, look, this guy's only had 6 or 7 pro fights. I mean, a lot of times in boxing, you don't even know of a guy till he's 18-0 because they fight 17 bums and then they fight one real fight. So it's a different dynamic. So he's kind of going through that. He's picking his guys very smart, and he's making good money doing it. Do I think he's that good? No. Do I think he's being smart? Absolutely. It doesn't
that's
bother.
a hot take because a lot of people are saying Jake's actually a really good fighter.
Oh, he is good, but he's a good 8-0 fighter or 8-1 fighter now. But he's not a good 19. Like he wouldn't beat any of the elite guys
in boxing.
In boxing. But I mean, now is he a good fighter? Absolutely.
Anderson, though. That's a statement. He's old though.
Yeah, old.
Like I said, he's fighting guys who are way past their prime and everything. So I mean, I don't know. Where does my loyalty lie? I mean, man. I'm always like it. I'm always gonna love MMA. But why I love this sport right now is, I looked at it for someone like me. You do MMA for 15 years, your body's gonna be broke down.
Yeah.
It's hard to get through a camp. I could never get through a camp. If I had to, I might be able to come out and do a bare knuckle fight because you don't have to do the wrestling, the jiu-jitsu. That hurts your back, your shoulders, your knees, everything. To come do a bare knuckle fight, I got to do these two. Like you go in there, you spar for a little bit, you hit the heavy bag, you sprint. Like my workout's over. You feel like you didn't do enough because it's so much easier on your body. So what really I fear is you're going to have a lot of these older fighters who are going to come out and they're going to say, well, look what Conor McGregor did. Look what Francis Ngannou did. I'm going to go to boxing and make all this money. You're going to get brain damage. Yeah. You're going to get beat up, and your noodle is going to be just messed up because your noggin. And so they're going to think that. I'm like, dude, come to bare knuckle instead, because here you're not going to take that damage. But you get in a fight where you're taking 30 shots to the head for a couple rounds. You're gonna. I mean, those guys. The only concussion I ever had in fighting was in a boxing match. I don't think I had close to 100 MMA fights. I don't think I ever got concussed.
Mine was in a wrestling match.
Wow.
Yeah, I got slammed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
isn't that crazy? I mean,
yeah,
like,
on wrestling mats and boom, and I literally couldn't remember 3 words. I never had anything like that again.
Yeah.
And I've been knocked out, went to the doctor, checked out, and then they're like, "Man, you're good," and I felt fine.
cool.
I've never had a concussion, but that's just because I'm built different.
No,
Hey,
he faked one time to get out of a football game. Swear to God, dude,
Yeah,
that's
but
what kind
I
of
can't remember.
yeah,
Who am
that's,
I?
Yeah, I
that's
did that.
literally he did that, and then his dad was driving him to the hospital, and he's like, "No, Dad, I'm okay."
I'm feeling better. I'm feeling better.
All right, let's break this down. First fight is
Bradshaw versus
Dennison.
yeah.
I know
Bradshaw.
both of those
I know
guys.
both those guys too. They
Yeah.
went to tryouts, man.
Really? What do you think about that one? Because I know Trevor's a big power puncher.
Yeah.
And Dennison's kind of like a, like weather the storm kind of
That
guy.
could be an awesome fight, to be honest with you. I'm counting on that beat starting off the night right. I think Bradshaw, he's a heavy-handed guy, man. And from what I gathered from him, MMA career didn't go the best, but he felt like because people would always take him down and try and.
Yeah. Well,
So I
honestly,
think he's a banger, man. It should be a great fight. Dennison's a tough guy, so I think it's going to be fireworks from the beginning.
I watched Bradshaw. I've coached against him, and that is where his weakness always is. He just starts laying punches, and everyone just takes him down,
Yeah.
and he's got power. So I'm excited I think this will be a better fit for him. And the next one we got Hilton and Schultz. LJ's from Utah as well.
yeah.
Kind of an interesting character, right?
Very interesting. I remember when I first saw him, I was like, "You're the dude I'm supposed to be looking out for?" Yeah. And it's like, okay. And then I actually got in there and worked out with him a little bit, and he's got some good hands. You know,
Yeah.
he's got some experience. He's been around for a long time, and he said, I'm not in shape right now, but once I get in shape, it'll be a lot different. So, and I know he better be in shape because he's
Fighting Saturday.
and he's lost weight. He's lost a lot of weight.
Okay.
So I'm not sure of his opponent right there very much. I don't know.
Hilton?
Do you know anything about him?
No, is he from Utah? I've never heard of this guy
Me
either.
neither. I have no
Yeah,
idea.
we'll have to see that one. And then the next one is Rodriguez.
I'm
Vanderman.
really excited about this. Rodriguez, he was 2-0 for us. He just fought, but he had 2 first-round knockouts, and then he just fought and went the distance, and he totally gassed because he goes out this hard the
Swinging.
whole time. So but it was great because he said that was so good for me to learn. I'm like, you're right. Vandermeer's got 2 first-round knockouts. So both these guys,
Oh, really?
yeah.
So they both have 2. So that one's fireworks.
that somebody's going down.
Someone's going to sleep.
I don't think that's going the distance right there. So, but if it goes the distance, both guys will be so exhausted. It's
Yeah,
gonna be
like
great.
3rd round or 4th, 5th
Yeah,
round.
but
we're
like,
like,
you would have put no. So both guys got a couple first round knockouts. That could be. I don't like this fight and went for one reason. Those guys shouldn't fight right now. I think they both have some. Rodriguez comes out with this big old mohawk. He's so happy, so energetic. Man, we should be building these guys for stars. Don't have them fight right now. Have them fight 3 fights down the line. But
Yeah.
not my call. So
but it'll be a firework fight either way.
100%.
And then Jones Lozano. I know Mike Jones. Mike Jones.
I'm Mike Jones.
Mike Jones.
No, he came to the tryouts. I was really impressed with him, especially just watching what he did and then him talking about, he's an MMA guy who kept down to 170 for some odd reason. I'm like,
Yeah,
you're freaking
it's
too big for
huge.
that.
I know.
And he's like, I know, I quit for a while. My girlfriend then made me get back in the gym, and I started coming back and went to 185, and I'm undefeated. Then
He knocked out
Yeah.
in the Fierce Championship bare knuckle champ
Yep.
from another organization.
yeah.
So I'm excited.
I said that doesn't mean that organization sucks. So.
Oh, it does.
Our competition, I was saying.
yeah. There is no competition.
No, but
He knocked out some bum from another bum organization bum.
Lozano there, he knocked out our former champ with one punch. He
Oh,
knocked
really?
out, Francisco Ricci. Ricci lost the title. Next comeback fight, Lozano knocked him out in the first round. Boom. So he's heavy-handed.
Damn.
And he fought his next fight. He lost, but he went the distance with another guy who had a bunch of fights. He's a tough guy.
That's what worries
that's a
me
great
about
fight.
that, Jones, is the first fight I feel like for bare knuckle is a shock.
First fight, I always tell people it takes somewhere between 1 to 4 rounds to get your feel. Some people figure it out after rounds. Some people it takes a couple and they don't. You just like the distance is different and like it just feels weird. You start 3 feet away, like what the hell's going on? It's just different. So
Yeah.
it takes people some time. It could be a problem. So
I think
Jones
that
gotta
would
be
be a
careful.
banger. Yeah, tell Jones to be careful. Ben Moa, dude, he's a local favorite.
Oh yeah, he's a
power
power player,
puncher.
right?
I've
Yeah.
never met either of these guys, but just looking at their pictures, that other guy shouldn't have come in.
Who's this? Yeah, I don't know anything about Bercier.
Bercier, I don't know anything about him. I know his brothers. His brothers fought for us a couple of times. Tough as could be, man.
He needs a better photographer because my boy is struggling there.
Ben Moa, though, is a power puncher.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Big, NFL.
Big Ben Moa, yeah.
Style, or not NFL, whatever. Just a big football
D1
player.
football player, yeah, at the Utes. This one we're kind of excited about. That's this guy added on the Rivera-Stevens fight.
Man, it's such a quiet, like nobody even knew it was on there for a long time. Like, why'd they put that on if they're not getting
The press.
Yeah, because that's a huge fight. That could be a main event on one of our cards. I mean,
That's
put
true.
that on Iowa. He's main eventing that sucker. It's a great fight. I mean, Stevens has been a banger forever, always putting on great fights, always able to knock people out. Rivera's fought for us twice. He fought the guy who's fighting for the title here, H.D. Davis.
That's who he lost to?
No, it was a draw.
It was a draw?
Yeah. It was a draw.
You saw Stevens today? He's training at Ramsey's gym.
No, I wasn't in there.
I was gonna say,
didn't
how's
see
he
it.
look?
No, I wasn't in, so I didn't see him.
But no, that could be
here.
That's a sneaky great fight that I'm surprised is on here because it's way down the list. It's like
Yeah.
let's fight. I'm like, dude, that could be a main event. We gotta
Main or
fight.
co, right?
Are they fighting at 145 or 155?
Yeah, they're two different weight classes. They're going to be fighting at 155.
Lightweight, 155.
155, but it's just Rivera's under.
Yeah, I think it's probably bumping up.
Rivera did, like I said, he fought H.D. Davis at 145.
So then I don't know either one of these ones, the Adams and Terrell.
Adams, he was our first BKFC champion. So he was a champion, and then he lost it, and then he gained it back, and then he just lost it to Alan Belcher, even though he knocked Alan Belcher down twice, and there's some controversy because here's what he did. He knocked him down the second time, and he goes and he stands right by him and puts his arm on the ring like that, and the referee's counting. He had to go, get away, go over there, push him on the
So
other
he
corner.
didn't get away fast enough.
Yep. And so he went over there kind of cocky, just put his hand on.
So they start counting.
Yeah. So then he
Because he has to clear before he starts counting, right?
Yep. So he went over there, knocked him out, and then just kind of goes over and stands right by him and does this, puts his arm on the ropes, and the referee goes over and starts pushing West. It's like, I don't know. So anyway, and then Mick Terrell's been. I mean, the first time I fought over in England, he fought over there.
Oh, really? So these are two OG big old boy heavyweight.
This could be. I mean, this is for. This is a great fight, right?
But it's for the belt?
Yeah.
Oh, for the heavyweight.
Because, like I said, Adams has been the champ twice. Terrell is only loss is to Adams. So
I'll be honest, as a casual fan, on TV is one thing, but I don't like watching heavyweight fights because they're just so damn big, and when you get hit by one of those, it's rough. Watching,
you'll like it live.
Yeah. Well, even watching an Iman fight, it's just like the amount of power you take from a heavyweight is just like, damn.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. You should have been there when we had who's a big Hardy. Greg Hardy fought for us.
Yeah.
And that Watson, that was a
Greg Hardy, now he works at Walmart.
Yeah, I
He
saw
actually
that.
does. You see that? Yeah. He works at a Walmart. There was a video of him working at a Walmart now.
well,
Yeah.
times are tough. But
Times are tough. And then we got the Stuart Davis for the featherweight championship.
So Kai Stewart, 4-0. He's a wrestler. I think he's in college right now still. He's a young guy. He's probably 22. But he's he's undefeated for us, man. Like, a lot of people don't give him any respect. They're like, oh, he's not very good on his feet. All he does is get in there and wrestle. Yeah, he does what he does best. He gets inside, dirty boxing, pushes you around. That's what I'm saying. He's beat good boxers, good stand-up guys, because he makes them fight his fight. Howard Davis, man, he's got power, he's got reach, he's got range, he's got very good technical boxing.
Mike Perry was just shouting him out.
Who's that?
Howard Davis.
Oh, Howard Davis legit.
Because they were sparring together or something like that.
He was like
he's a legit featherweight.
His hands are good.
Yeah.
And he's so tall, he's so athletic for that weight class. I think if he targets, I mean, you have to know Stewart's coming in. If you target those uppercuts, and he talked about his last fight, I'm using these uppercuts. He knocked the guy with the uppercut. So he's ready for this title fight. It's going to be good.
Oh, and this one, the third fight for Farah and Rawlings, right?
Man, I mean, Faria's been an absolute beast for us. I mean, it was funny when she fought Taylor Starling. Taylor Starling was confident this fight. I'm gonna get the title. She was 3-0. She got hit by Faria, and she went down and she looked up. She goes, I can't I can't do it. What the hell does happen? Then she was done.
No mas, no mas.
Yeah, pretty
mas.
much. It was in the first round. It's like, what the hell just ran me over? So, Faria's a different animal. But the last time they fought, Beck Rowdy, she was impressive, and it got stopped due to a cut, but that wasn't an easy fight. So this is probably the two best females we have at this weight class. That's great.
That's awesome. And then this one, I feel like, dude, Ben Rothwell's too big for Todd Duffy. I'm scared.
For Todd Duffy, I'm literally scared for it. I can't believe he's doing it because I met both of them.
Yeah.
Ben is gigantic.
Dude, he had to have special shoes made.
He's a man mountain.
You guys, I can't find any shoes. And they had to find a dude to make like 5X. I don't know. And
he's a hard weight cutting to 265.
285.
Yeah, 285. Oh my gosh. He's cutting hard, he said. He's like hungry.
He's going to be over 300 by the time they fight.
Do you think he just annihilates Duffy or?
Well, here's the thing. If Duffy, he's got to use that speed. He's got to, if he can stick and
Ben
move.
is fast.
Ben is fast. His last fight, he was so fast for a heavyweight.
I know, but that's what Duffy has to move around
my
like.
God.
Like I said, you never know.
It's a puncher's chance
Duffy's
always.
knocked people out in 5 seconds in the UFC.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't care what anybody says. As soon as a heavyweight lands a good punch on the other, they're hurting them.
That is true.
He can't hurt Ben. So don't be shocked if he lands that punch first. But if Ben lands it first, he's going to win. So I think
5-second knocked someone out in the UFC.
UFC, boom.
But that was 205, right?
No, that was heavyweight.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
But Duffy's coming in at this fight at like 207. He's giving
I
up
don't
like.
think so, is he?
he's
No.
giving up
They won't.
Be bigger.
He'll be bigger by fight night, I bet.
They won't let that
Right there,
happen.
doesn't
They're
it?
not gonna
What's
let. They're not gonna let that big of a weight disparity.
He's just so.
And then the
big.
main event,
the king of violence.
the king of violence, Platinum Perry versus the king of underground.
You see, the thing I love about this fight is, to me, this is, when you talk about bare knuckle, these two guys are like the poster boys for what it should be.
Yes.
Both these guys are, when I talk about, they're dogs. Both these guys have been in nothing but hard fights forever. They definitely will take one to give one. They can get hit in the face. They get knocked down. They're happy to do it. You couldn't ask for a better main event than me. The king of violence is, and to me, what I like about it is, Eddie's already had the title for, UFC, belt or whatever. Perry, I don't even know if Perry thinks like that. You know what I mean? So I think having
does not.
I know.
He was in here.
That's what I mean.
He didn't bring up the championship. He just, I'm on, just heard it.
That's what I mean. So
Yeah.
I think having the quote unquote title of King of Violence means more than anything. Like, this is what they want to be known as. Title, whatever. So that's why this is cool to me. You got two guys who fighting for legacy and reputation and how other people see them, because they both think they're the toughest guy in the room. Well, only one is.
There's no greater embodiment of that title and of this sport than Mike and Eddie.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's
for
what,
sure,
That's why I love the fight.
Yeah.
And even Mike is saying, we were just had Mike on, and he was talking about, I hope he doesn't get knocked out early because I want to bleed. I want to
fight. He's like, come on, don't just go
He
down.
was furious at Rockhold because he's like, I've trained so hard. I want to fight.
That might be where him and I differ. I would like to get out there as soon as possible.
Me too. Yeah. Take my check, go home.
But, dude, Mike Perry is BJ Penn.
Yeah, dude.
Just violent.
Dude, he literally, I feel like he's the Mike Tyson of the sport.
Yeah, I mean,
You know what I mean?
he's like I said, when Luke hit him with a straight left and knocked him back, and he goes, and came forward, I was like, oh shit, this is it.
That's scary, yeah.
When you hit him with your best shot and he does that,
And he wants more.
yeah, and you go, okay.
And you liked it?
Yeah.
Like he smiles?
Yeah.
You're like, oh shit.
Like I said, I feel like Mike was he's a great fighter, but he found his niche. He's an elite fighter now in bare knuckle. Like he was a good UFC fighter, but he's a great fighter. This is, all his attributes, all his strengths come into what we do, and that's why he's going to be.
You don't have to worry about the ground because he's always hated it.
You know what I mean? So
I'm not
it's
gonna
perfect for him.
I'm not going to make you pick because I know you love both. But tell me, what if Eddie wins? What did he do? And if Mike wins, what did he do?
I think if Eddie wins, he's going to get inside and land combinations, his hard shots, bam, 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 bam. You know, he's going to get into where he wants to, his range, and land combinations. You know, I think Perry's just going to come out, you know, he's going to have this awkward style, and he just wants to land. I feel like if he just lands a nice clean shot, he's going to do damage. So it's about that one punch versus Alvarez going to come in with these combinations. If he can land a 3-punch combination, it's like stun Mike Perry, and then he could finish him off.
I just think like Eddie comes in with his head down and so much, you know. I mean, he does his combos. He's like this too much, and Mike is just so tall, like he's just gonna boom. I think that.
Yeah, but that's where we talk about like Eddie's got to keep that head off center line. You know,
Yeah.
throw these combinations, and if his head is in center line, it makes it easy for Perry. It is going to be a problem.
Is this Perry's greatest challenge, and what does this do for his legacy when he puts him out?
Yeah, for Perry, I mean, I don't know, man, because he fought a guy much bigger than him, former UFC champ, and Luke Rockhold. I think a lot of people might think that's a big one, but you know, Eddie's definitely a dog. You know what I mean? So it's a different. I mean, you got two guys who aren't easy to take out. You know what I mean? And I like something Mike Perry said. He said, Eddie always gets up, but I never go down. Well said.
Yeah.
Dude, that dude's a genius, dude. Like a weird way, you know.
He's an evil genius.
An evil genius.
Cool. Yeah. Well, dude, honestly, I mean, we're incredibly excited for Bare Knuckle this Saturday, December 2nd. It's at the Maverick Center here in Utah, and honestly, what a sport.
Hey, all I got to say is if you don't, like you said, I'm not sure. Once you get there, just give it a chance. I think once you see it, like, man, I like this. You know, this is not what I thought. Because when I first heard of it, I said, what is wrong with those people?
Well, it's like UFC. Remember, people were like, what is that?
They
And
call
then
it human
you like
cockfighting.
get to the real event, and the people go to the event, and they're like, oh, this is amazing.
This is awesome. Yeah,
yeah.
I've had many people we've had UFC fighters show up there, and then they're like, I love this stuff, man. This is great, you know. It just you get there like this is like a sport to me, like hockey. I watch it on TV. I'm like, and I go to a game. I'm like, I like this. You know what I mean? So this is much better in person than live. You know, you can hear you hear that, ooh, you hear that? Oh, it's so good, you know. And I get the front row. I get blood splattered on my shirt.
Yeah, you're like smiling.
Nobody hits me. It's great.
Dude, Chris, honestly, incredibly proud that we could have you on our podcast. We're
honored to be here, man.
Proud to
You
be
guys
here.
are killing it. Thank you.
Yeah,
It was fun.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
Dude, that was fun talking, man.
Great time, man. Good
Dude,
to see you again.
I know, wild, you know. What a weird world, right? Now we're different spectrums.
Hopefully, yeah, exactly. I'm past that fighting stuff, so hopefully we'll be coming back to Utah often, man.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning into The Coach and the Casual. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and share it with your friends. Thanks again.